become super mystics too. And so today your talk will be on diving in. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring her up then. Rev Joy-anne.
Yes.
I have a joke about a mystic.
Okay, let's hear it then.
Everybody knew that Gandhi was a mystic. But Gandhi, because of his bad eating habit, was really frail and very weak. And because of the work that he did, he would be barefoot quite a bit, and he had really bad calluses on his feet. And because of his eating habits, he had really bad breath. So would that make him a super callousphagal mystic, hence my halitosis?
All right. Very good. A super calloused, fragilistic, fragilistic. Halitosis. And are you claiming that for yourself?
Maybe.
Yes. Well, I have to say, a mystic is a person who loves all of our weather. How many of you woke up this morning and said, "Oh, it's raining"? You did? Good. And you joined me. I love all of the seasons. And I don't know if it was because of my time in Seattle, but I love the rain, as well as all the weather. So I just wanted to say that. So I begin by sharing with you a prayer. It's also posted on our e-blast. And this was written by our very own Dr. Ernest Holmes in his book, This Thing Called You. And so I want to invite you this morning just to gently allow your eyes to close and to hear these beautiful words from our founder that truly speak to my heart. And I quote from Holmes, "The Spirit within me is God. The living Spirit Almighty is within me now. Spirit is the sustaining principle of my life. I open my mind to its influx. I open my consciousness to its inflowing. And I open my heart to its love." And so it is. And so this same Spirit that is everywhere present, that is in the universe upon universe upon universe, forever expanding, is right here, right now, within you. So that does make you and me and everyone a mystic. And we've all had moments, we've all had days and weeks, maybe years, of knowing this. And we may have had some times in our lives when we forgot. Anyone forget? Anyone forget they were a mystic? I call it temporary spiritual amnesia. You're going through a situation or a challenge, and you forget everything you've ever learned. Forget who you are, forget what's going on. You're just so amongst the problem, so into the problem. So the Spirit within is God. The Spirit within you is God. The living Spirit Almighty is within you now. The Spirit is the sustaining principle, as Holmes said, in your life. So today and this month and every Sunday during the month of May, I'm going to invite you, I'm going to ask you this morning if you are willing to open your mind greater than ever before to its intelligence, its love. Open your heart, open your whole life to the realization that you are that. Are you willing to be and do that this month?
Yes.
Are you willing to do that every day of your life?
Yes.
All right, that's a big commitment.
Yes.
So good, I'm glad you said yes, because that is exactly what we'll be doing. Truly within every one of us is this essence, is this living presence that I call love, but I love Dr. Michael Beckwith. He called it the love intelligence. The love intelligence that created the entire cosmos. So we're made out of that. We are that in essence. And so I am so reminded of that, especially as I was going through this week and writing this and inviting the influx of the Spirit in, as, and through me. And it reminded me of a time, a very long time ago, probably almost 30 years ago, in about 1980 something, in which I was going through a very difficult time in my life. And this kind of difficult time some of you have been through. How many of you, no, I'm not asking you. How many, don't ask me. Many of you have gone through a divorce, yes? Sometimes more than one.
Yes.
Or two. Or three. It could be like Elizabeth Taylor and go through 6 or 7. In any case, so I was going through this difficult time in my life. I had 2 little children, and I went to a Science of Mind mystical counselor. And the reason I went is I wanted to learn about relationship. I wanted to learn how to create a truly magnificent, loving, thriving relationship. And this is what she said to me. She said, Joy-anne, you were trying to fill a hole in you with a relationship. Anyone ever do that? But a relationship can never fill that hole, she said. It has to be filled with a connection with something greater than you are, something way bigger than your needs and wants. It has to be filled with a relationship with life itself, a relationship with God. And little did I know when I had this conversation with her that it would put me on a trajectory, on a rocket, if you will, to a whole new experience. And some of you may feel called to be on a journey that is greater and bigger than you are. Anyone ever feel that calling? Like you feel like there's something amazing that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And so this is the time, today is the day, and we're the people to step forward into that. So within every one of us, there is an innate learning, an innate yearning, if you will, at the very depth of our being, to live a bigger life, to be the best that we could possibly be, and to live from the higher presence, from this greater essence of our being. And so when we answer that call, it will determine the level to which we will experience our life. So we are going to dive in this week into the meaning and the essence of our true self, our mystical self. That is the truth of everyone. So I want to begin, however, with a recognition for us. And this recognition is that sometimes this world of form, sometimes this human experience, see if this fits for you, sometimes, on rare occasion, this human experience can cause us, kind of pull us off track. Anyone ever notice that? We're going happily along, we're surfing the internet, no, we're surfing the great good of life, and something happens to kind of knock us down in a way. And so to illustrate this, I want to share with you a story in the Hindu tradition about a yogi, bless you, about a yogi whose guru left him under a tree with only 2 possessions. One was a begging bowl, and the other was a loincloth. And he left him under the tree to contemplate God every minute of every day. And so once a day, however, he would walk to the village and he would beg for food with his bowl, wearing his loincloth. And then the rest of the time he'd go back to his tree. He would meditate on God all day long, all night long. That's what he did with his whole life. Then one night, after he had worn his loincloth for several weeks, it got a little dusty. He took it off and he washed it in the stream and he hung it up on the line to dry. And when he woke up the next morning, a rat had eaten his loincloth. And he became very embarrassed. I mean, he is a man of God. He has to go to town with his baking bowl, right? And no loincloth. So he goes to town and he is very embarrassed. He begs for his meal. And they do this in India, so he begged for his meal, got his food, and he begged for a loincloth. And he was given a new loincloth, so he felt, oh, I'm so glad, he put it on, and he went with his food back to his tree. And everything went along very well. Every day he went to the village, and then after several weeks, he thought he must rinse out his loincloth again. And so he takes it off and he rinses it off, he hangs it up to dry, and guess what happened the next morning when he woke up? A rat had chewed it up. So again, he felt so embarrassed. So he prayed, and he was told to get a kitten. So he was able to find a kitten to chase the rat away. So he had to beg for another loincloth and beg for some more food. So that was going along really well, but then the kitten needed some milk. So then he said, well, I'll beg for milk. So he had to beg for food, beg for milk. His loincloth was there, so he was fine with that. And then he said, it's kind of embarrassing to have to beg for milk. So he found this stray cow. So he found the stray cow, and everything went really well because it would munch on the grass by the river and drink the water, and he had beautiful milk for the kitten, and everything went fine. And then during the summer, it got really hot, kind of like in Kamloops, and all the grasses dried up in the summer. And so he thought, well, now I have to beg for fodder. That's what they fed the cows, fodder. So he went to town, he begged for fodder to feed his cow that would feed the kitten, and then he could pray, right? And so then he thought, well, maybe I should plant some nice grass, some nice seeds, and make a beautiful pasture for the cows. So he began to do that, and then not long after the spring and the winter came, he had some beautiful grass, and the cow was happy. But he had so many fields of grass that he had to then hire some people, some workers, some laborers. So there he was, hiring the laborers to take care of the grass, to feed the cow, to make the milk, so that it could provide for him, so he could sit under the tree and meditate all day long. So as things went along, he thought, oh, this is just taking too much time, so I think that I'll take a wife that will manage the laborers, that will grow the grass, that will feed the kitten. And so he did. So he took a wife. He was very happy with that. He was happily married, but the wife didn't want to live under the tree, so he had to build his wife a house. So there he was. He built his wife a house, and of course, then soon after that, not too long after that, she became with child, and then again and again. And so, as the story goes along, all of a sudden, he's noticing that he has less and less time to meditate and pray because the things of the world have pulled him away from what his original mission was to sit and pray and meditate all day long. So, not too long after that, as he was finally under the tree in his loincloth, meditating and looking at his vast estates and his house and his wife and the laborers and the grasses, a very familiar figure was walking by. And this figure, it happened to be his guru. And his guru looked at this and he was shocked to see what had happened. He said, student, is that you? Did I not leave you under this tree with just a loincloth and a begging bowl so you could meditate? What happened? And the guru said, teacher, reverend teacher, I know it seems hard to understand, but truly, this was the only way I could keep my loincloth. And so can we relate to this story? Can we see that there are so many things often, our jobs, our families, our household duties, and right now, probably a lot of you are out working in your yards, pulling weeds, anyone pulling weeds, and planting things, and growing things, and preparing things. God bless you. And enjoying the weather and the flowers, right? And so if we desire to experience true peace and true prosperity in our lives, if we desire deep contentment and this longing in our heart to connect with that power which is greater than ourselves, we must find that connection, and we must make that time, that meditation time, that connection time, that quiet time, if you will, the most important part of our lives, right? And so how many of us can really choose that? It's a choice. It is a choice we make. And I found for the last at least 30 years that I've been studying, and the last almost 19 years that I've been a minister, that's the most important thing that I do. It's not Sunday, it's not managing, offices and people and doing counseling and doing memorials and doing weddings and all that. It's not that. Every day it is me committed totally to being and experiencing my connection with Spirit every single day. And I don't miss. To me, it's life. And so I invite you this morning and every day as we go into this month to see the importance of your connection and to really to foster that, to encourage that, to be that, to take that time every single day. And your life will change in ways that are so magnificent and so beautiful and so powerful as you nourish that part of you, that connection, the truth of your being. So important. Dr. Holmes in The Science of Mind, and I love the reading, and I know that you did it perfectly. I love how she did that. She just kind of flowed with it, right? So I'm going to read it again because I love it so much. A mystic is not a mysterious person, but one who has a deep inner sense of life and of his unity with the whole. A mystic is one who intuitively perceives truth and without mental process, meaning without having to think about it, arrives at a spiritual realization. That is what a mystic is, and we've all experienced that. We've all done that. Neville, in his book, Faith is Your Fortune, wrote this: consciously claim yourself to be that which you seek. Consciously claim yourself to be that which you seek. Appropriate the consciousness of that which you seek, and you will know the status of a true mystic. So you name it, you claim it, and you set your divine intention to do that. And that's what we're all about this entire month, to be that mystic, the mystic that we already are. There's a book called A Mystic as an Everyday Person. I don't know if you've ever read that book. It's very interesting. And Rabbi David Cooper, in his book, he wrote a book that God is a verb. And he said, and he wrote that whenever he sat down with any holy man, with any person, with any yogi, with anyone, whether they were a Native American shaman or a priest or a Science of Mind minister or a monk, that they had different words and they might have looked different and dressed different, but they had the same message. And this is the message that they had: that every one of us has something profound within us. We have something very profound. And what is that profoundness? That is the infinite knowingness of the divine. That every one of us is made in that image and likeness of infinite spirit. We are that. Ramana Maharshi, one of the great mystics of times past, said, you are that. You are that. We are that. We are the ones that we've been looking for. We are that. In roughly 3,000 years ago, many, many years ago, there was a man named Siddhartha. Let's see if I can say this right. Siddhartha Gautama. Did I say that right? I'm always practicing my pronunciation. And he was walking the earth. Who knows who that was? Buddha. Okay, Buddha. He was astounding people, not with his words, not with how he looked, but by his mere presence. So they asked him. They didn't ask him who he was. They asked him what he was. They said, are you an angel? They said to Buddha. He said, no. Are you a god? He said, no. They said, well, what are you? He said, I am awake. I am awake. And so Buddha literally means the awakened one. And we are here to be awake to the truth of who we truly be. And we each have something profound in us. We have been born on this planet, chosen to be here, and we have that profound knowingness in us. And so it's not a matter of us looking out here, but of opening up a way for this profound beingness to come out. And this is from Joel Goldsmith. We open a way for that divinity to come out of us. And we try to make it complicated. And so Dr. Holmes recognized this when he said in Science of Mind textbook that we regularly try to make a riddle, and see if this fits for you. We try to make a riddle out of something very simple. Anyone ever do that? And so I share this story with you, not, it's a different Holmes, not Ernest Holmes, but Sherlock Holmes. Who's heard of Sherlock Holmes? So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson went on a camping trip. And in the middle of the night, they were awakened. They woke up. And as they lay there awake now, Sherlock says to Watson, he said, "Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see." And so Watson said, "I see millions and millions of stars." "And what does that tell you?" asked Sherlock. "Astronomically," said Watson, "it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially limitless billions of planets. Theologically, it tells me that God and his universe are infinite. Metaphorically, it tells me that we will have a beautiful day tomorrow." Feeling rather self-satisfied with his answer, Watson turns to Sherlock and says, "What do you see?" And Sherlock says, "Well, it tells me that somebody stole our tent." So we sometimes make a riddle. We go into these big, long explanations when the truth is very, 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 very simple. We make it complicated. So who do you think you are? Just who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You are spirit. You are the activity of God in physical form, here at the most perfect time to be, the most wonderful time to be. Seeing and sensing and experiencing God, experiencing the divine, your divinity. And we have a direct line, a direct communication. We are one with that which created us. We are that. And Dr. Holmes said this so beautifully in Science of Mind on page 344, for those of you who want to look it up. He said the highest mental practice is to recognize this inner beingness, this inner divinity, to listen to the inner voice, to declare its presence. The greater a man's consciousness of this indwelling I am, the more fully he or she will live. This will never lead to illusion, but always lead to reality with a capital R. All great souls have known this and have continuously striven to let the mind of God literally express through them, through their mentalities. "The Father that doeth the work is in me," said Holmes. And this was the declaration of the great Master Jesus, and it should be ours, that we have a limitless life. We are infinite beingness. Or as Charles Fillmore said, Elijah found that the voice of God was not only in the wind, not only in the earth, not only in the intellect, but in the presence of life within us, in that part and particle of our being that is who we truly be. And so to bring this all together today, I'm going to take us on a little journey. Buddha said, let your mind become clear like a forest pond. Like a forest pond. And I'm going to take you now just through a little journey in that way. I'm going to invite you all to just very gently close your eyes as we bring this time together into a deep experience of the mystic, the mystical. So we have our angel, Raphael, playing his music there. And I invite you this morning to imagine yourself in the most beautiful forest. A beautiful, beautiful forest. And you see the pathway open up into this forest, and you find that you place your feet on a path that leads into this magnificent forest. It's beautiful. In this forest, the sun is shining. You can see the sunlight streaming through the trees. And as you are on this path, you come to a clearing with a beautiful, crystal clear pond. And you feel called to sit on a rock, looking out upon this beautiful crystal clear pond in this beautiful forest with the sun streaming through the trees. And you are going to be invited to be like a pebble dropping very deeply into this pond, very gently. And so on level 1, the surface. On the surface of the pond, you notice that it is not really very still. That on the surface there are all sorts of disturbances. The water is kind of churned up a little bit by the wind. Leaves and dirt litter the surface. And all the disturbances to the pond are visible at this first level of this pebble that you are observing as yourself, that you are on the surface of your mind. And it is also where all of the activity, all of the disturbances exist. And we might call this level the chatter level. And at this level, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day that breeze across our mind. And this chatter might be about finances and deadlines and health and children and appointments and shopping lists or retirement or vacation, world unrest, the shutting down of our government, conflict at work, relationships, or last night's dinner. The thoughts are endless. But you know in your heart of hearts that just because the surface is being whipped around with mad activity, it doesn't mean that all that activity is going on below the surface. Some of the surface chatter does not make the pond impure. And so you allow your pebble to gently drop below the surface to level 2. And just below this level, the disturbances have very little impact. The storm may be above, but its presence is not felt the same way here where you are, right below the surface. And likewise, when you go below the surface of your mind, you leave the chatter behind when you meditate. Here, the constant entering and exiting of thoughts is replaced with a different kind of thinking. And you have more control of the thinking process than you do on the very surface. But here, your thinking is more focused. As you sit still, you may find that your thoughts are now analyzing those silent comments you make as you assess your progress or others' progress as you proceed on your meditation. But just now, you see that the pebble is now very gently falling even further below the surface, well below the surface on level 3. The pebble is now gently falling below that, and you feel the chatter lessening and lessening, and you let go of any need to analyze. You're just letting go, and you're allowing your mind to flow on how all things are connected and held together. And at this level, you begin to experience more of your spiritual nature at this quiet, beautiful level that is below the surface. And as you surrender to that flow, you find your pebble is dropping even now to level 4 below the surface. And this level 4 is called stillness. And you are now getting to that place where you are actually experiencing the quiet silence. In this space, thoughts begin to disappear as you sink into pure awareness. You notice the silence of awareness, and fewer thoughts swim through your mind. And as your mind becomes quieter, you feel joy You might notice joy beginning to sparkle. As the great mystic Teilhard de Chardin said, joy is the infallible sign of the presence of spirit. And so at this level, below the surface of your mind, you feel joy, and yet you know there is one more level. And you feel your pebble very gently dropping down into level number 5. And this is the final resting place of our pebble. This place is beyond mere quieting of your mind. Here is the place within you where you empty your mind of all thoughts and you experience simply the stillness. This beautiful place of stillness is hard to describe in words. And so rather than focusing on any thought, just put your awareness on that inner spaciousness, that inner space between the thoughts. It is the place of no distractions, no separation, only consciousness, pure consciousness, where you merge with the One. Just allowing yourself to be there, in that beautiful place of the mystical experience of silence. And now you very gently begin to ascend. From level 5, you go up to level 4. From level 4, you rise to level 3. Once again, you hear the music playing. Go up to level 2. And soon you are back up to level 1. You are noticing the beautiful pond. You are seated upon a rock in the beautiful forest with the sun streaming through the trees. And you in your mind's eye, very gently rise from your rock and begin to walk back through the forest on this beautiful path. On this beautiful path. Back out of the woods, out of the forest, find yourself seated once again at the Center for Spiritual Living. And when you're ready, you just allow your eyes to open. Our founder, Dr. Holmes, said these beautiful words. He said, all of the great mystics have agreed that the soul, our soul, is on an eternal journey, a pathway of experience that is of self-discovery, that it is on the way back to its Father's home, and that every soul will ultimately reach its heavenly home. And so just reminding all of us that we are that beautiful essence, that we are the mystical presence of the divine, here and now, on an eternal journey. So we open our hearts to that journey, our lives to that influx, that flow, and our nature to the awareness that we are divine. And we say together, so it is.